Greetings and welcome to the Modern Alchemist channel. I'm Aubrey Forrest, the Modern Alchemist, and this is The Map, the Modern Alchemist podcast. Today on The Map, we're going to be adding to some of the material we've already discussed in previous episodes of Essentials of Practical Alchemy by talking about, and more to the point, showing you what this double layer thing is all about. And to begin with, I'm showing you a picture of a model train. And the reason for this is because as a kid, I spent countless hours in my garage building train sets and learning about things in terms of scale. And this concept of seeing things in terms of scale, so that when I looked at a train set and I saw it like this or like this, I was actually thinking in my head in much larger terms. I was thinking like this. And so when I would see something on this scale, I would be looking at it and I'd be like, oh, yes, and that translates into this. Well, this is the idea, this is the concept I want you to bring with you as we go on our own little journey here. I want you to pack up and get ready for an adventure, because what we're going to do is we're going to go from the very large and we're going to visit the very, very small. And when we get there, we're going to see that the very small is actually exactly like the very large. Are you ready? I'm ready. All right, let's begin.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
All right, you guys ready for your fantastic voyage? This is going to be one where we enter the spaceship of our imagination and we look at the world from a new perspective. Specifically, that we're shrinking. It's the Honey, I Shrunk This Kid's perspective. What we're looking at, what's in front of us right now, what's directly in front of us, this is part of an area in my front lawn. I had actually waited for the weather to create this phenomenon for about a year. It doesn't do this very often in the Northwest, especially where I live, where most of the winter it's just raining. But when it does, it's this amazing thing, because what happens is that when the ground suddenly freezes, it does so in a double layer. And so what you're looking at here are pine needles. And these pine needles are literally held together and elevated by a layer of frost. Check out that detail. Isn't this blow your mind? This is my camera phone, you guys. Look at the detail. Holy cow. Wow, I'm just like, wow. Anyway, so you can see through there and you can see that there's an open space, and then the bottom has frosted as well. Now I got a lot more of these pictures, okay? So don't worry. But check this out. So this is the next one, and I want you to see that this freezing, check out the sheet here. So it literally is raising up in sheets. Over here, you can see that the frost is displacing the earth. It's displacing the gravel. We're going to come back to this and other images like this. Check this out over here. We're going to come back to this like almost straw-like formation. And let's see. Okay, here's another one. I have several of these. I hope you guys enjoy this. This was amazing when I realized what I had discovered as a result of all of this. Notice it's almost like going into an alien world, right? You can literally see where bridged here at points, and realize this entire process is electrically driven. And it usually happens, by my experience, in the early hours of the morning. Typically when the sun is about to rise, and that point when it seems much colder in the morning, then it warms up. But again, you can see that it displaced all of these needles and created a carpet of needles, which actually underneath are being held up by this latticework of ice. Now there's more. There's another example. Look at that crystallization. Now, if you'd like to learn more about water and the fact that water has 4 states, not 3 as we're taught, then check out the lectures of Dr. Gerald Pollack. He's from the University of Washington, and he gives a wonderful lecture. I have a link to it here. Look at this crystallization pattern. It's so amazing. And all of this is forming, this whole latticework forms as a result of an electrical process in which it's building out in layers, stacking out one on top of another. And of course, then that stacking is then creating this. So let's see what else we got here. Here we are. Woohoo! Okay. Now we're here. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that was just blowing my mind. Check this out. Now, notice that the water ice actually has debris inside of it. It pulled up silicates. Those little dots there that you see, this is debris. This is silicate that's being held up. And check out what happened as a result. And I want you to now think, are there other evidences of geology or geographic formations that seem like these absurd balancing acts, like this one right here, where it's all held together and you're like, how did that ever form? And of course, all that regular geologists have in their toolbox is mechanical forces. So this requires either a lot of water or a lot of wind and erosion that then somehow or another created this. Of course, we know for a fact this literally happened overnight, and in fact had happened in the space of a few hours. This process is seen elsewhere. It's seen here. Check it out. Pretty amazing, right? Look at that. Does this look familiar? Can you see the relationship? See the collimated structures? There they are. And of course, this patterning is the result of dielectric sorting of the mineral deposits within the Earth during its electric liquefaction, when this entire area became charged and motile, so that it was able to form. Look at these beautiful arcs, lifting this stone, literally picking the stone right off the ground and pushing it up, creating a double layer. Because below this, there's gaps. And then you go down and you can see there's a second layer of frost at the bottom here. So there's a layer on the top and a layer on the bottom. Here's another example, a little bit more from the side. And so you can see, oh man, look at that. Does this look familiar? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? How about this? This here, that looks very familiar, right? As we pull back, and you can see their areas. Look at that. How this, literally the force of the water lifted the earth and a stone. Now, it would be awesome if we had some of you guys out there, mathematicians, who could take the general weight of a tiny stone and scale this up to see exactly how much force is required, because you can clearly see here now, right? Here's the upper layer, and then of course here's that joining, right? This is the joining, those points in between the upper and lower layer, these columns that join the positive and negative charge. This same lattice work, by the way, is seen everywhere, not the least of which, if you see it in strands, would be DNA, right? But here we have it, an upper layer and then a lower layer. And of course, the electric force of this literally drove these stones right up off the ground. The entire ground is disrupted here on an extraordinary scale, on a scale like this. You just have to think in different terms so that when we're looking here, we're seeing this from the standpoint of being really, really tiny. Okay, let's look at another one. Here's another great example. Look at all the disruption of the gravel in the front area of my lawn here. It literally just pulled it up, and you can see the distortion pattern where the electrical force was stronger and where it was weaker. And it's patterning, then the earth itself patterns around it. Look at that. And of course, this is a very, very small scale. Look at the arcs, right? Now we see stuff like this in Arches National Park, as well as all over the world, by the way, not just there, not just in the American Southwest. We see this all over the place. And these formations are made electrically. And look down, deep down, and you can see down in here, it's frozen. And then notice we have a kind of sorting here, right? That same sorting pattern, little ribbons, really tiny ribbons of sorted material. And of course, this is really, really, really small. This is grass over here, little blades of grass. Here's another fantastic image. Check this out. So you can see that it took a whole chunk here, lifted this clean up out of the ground. Look at how it's almost like waves of water. Well, it is water, but just frozen in these beautiful waves and arcs. And of course, these are literally capturing magnetic field lines. It's like a snapshot, a photo image of this is where the electrical field is. And look how powerful it is. There's no such thing as gravity, you guys. It's all electrical, all of it, everything. Fields of attraction and repulsion. This is it. And look at the strength, the power. Imagine this blown up on a much, much larger scale. And you get this. Where up here, then, what you're looking at is a double layer. Moving right along here like that. Right along the top. And then everything's pulling up in these little columns. Boom, boom, boom. And of course, is there a form of architecture out there that might emulate this as a way of saying, at this point, at this high point up here, this is where divine acts take place. where magic or electromagnetism is culminating. And in fact, yeah, there you go. This is taken from Central America. Here's another example. And of course, what they're doing is they're giving you an example of this. And of course, you can go to Southeast Asia and find even more examples of this form of architecture everywhere. There are some, and of course, none of this, this is all something that happened, literally could have happened overnight and not requiring hundreds of millions of years of erosion. In the same context that this happens overnight. With the electric universe, it's simply a matter of observation and scale. Let's take a look at another example here. These are really, really, really cool. You can see now, here's some more examples of that process of it just following lines of magnetism and structuring itself in little columns. In my imagination, I can always sit there and visualize myself as a super duper tiny person looking up at this as an extraordinarily large cavern filled with crystals everywhere. I mean, if this doesn't stimulate one's imagination, I honestly can't, I don't know what would. This is amazing. This stuff, this is just remarkable. Look at that. It's a leaf for scale. And of course, the structure of the leaf itself mirrors the electric universe. You can see this now, right? These small veins, each of these veins then mirroring the electric universe. The electric universe forming itself into sheets and transmitting that information, that electrical current across its length and currents, like threads perhaps. This is another fantastic, look at this. Look at that structure. Oh man, look at that structure. Oh, that is just remarkable. Look at how it just grasped that stone and just encased it, lifting it up, tearing this stuff. Literally, you have to realize this material was flush to the ground. This material was flush to the ground before this frost. And then as a result of the moisture in the atmosphere and the electrical current that moisture carries, and the process of the moisture dividing itself into layers, orienting itself, so that you have an upper layer up here and a lower layer down here in the bottom. And then just like that video that I showed you about the electric universe in Adam's Helpmeet, these are the plasma columns holding everything together. And so if you were in that little spaceship, you'd be zooming between these little columns, dashing back and forth. This is some of the most beautiful stuff I've seen in a long time. This is extraordinary. This is amazing. And these are the things that you can capture by yourself as a scientist in your own front yard or backyard, where you can go out and document the electric universe as a process of a frost. Wow, look at that. Lifting that giant stone off the ground. Here are other examples. Let's see if I can Bring this up a little closer. So this is exactly what we're looking at back over here, right? This is the upper part of the double layer, and here's the lower part. And then, of course, it extends up and down. And it's sorted dielectrically, meaning that it polarizes, and as a result of the polarization, it sorts itself out chemically so that you see the materials stratify in a linear format. And this did not take hundreds of millions of years. This very well, again, could have taken place in an extraordinary short period of time as a result of electrical liquefaction of the surface materials, as a result of perhaps an interplanetary interaction between the Earth and another body passing nearby, perhaps the moon, perhaps Venus, who knows? All we do know is that this process is electrically driven. Here's another example. And this is not sculpture. This is that. Except for what you're seeing here is two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. And over here, what you're seeing, oh, and these are the more examples, right? What you're seeing over here is silicon dioxide. So it's one silicon atom and two oxygen atoms. But it works in the same exact process. It's simply nuancing and showing you how it looks to be within the inside of a double layer. And it's showing you in stone as opposed to in water. It's more of that beautiful linear structure. Right here, you can literally see the electrical current just pouring down, as it's stratifying and working and doing its thing. And here, this beautiful literal line here of let's bring that in a little bit closer so you can see that. Check that out. That double layer, that clean line, and then another layer forming up from that point. This is it all literally, to me, I'm seeing a Z pinch, a Z pinch within the linear layering of this, so that at some point this was more conductive in causing this material to draw upward, pinch at this point, expand out, and then on the other side, notice how it's pinched there as well. See that? So you're looking at the current hitting through this point and this material creating a pinch, like a can, right there, all the way through, all the way through. Amazing. And of course, then that goes up and down. And all of this is very similar to all the stuff that we catch in our frost. Okay, here's another example. Look at that double layer right there. Forms on the top here, then there are the columns, and then on the bottom, you can see a secondary layer. So it's literally coming up just like those cliff faces. Just like those cliff faces. Like that. Look at that. Do you see the similarity? I'm hoping that this video, I know I'm taking a bit of time doing this, but I'm really hoping that you'll be able to see kind of what I'm seeing, to recognize the power of the electric universe in driving the environment. on every scale. So that here, really, really, really small, or here, really, really, really large. It's still exactly the same. This is the beauty of the electric universe, is no matter in the very small or the very large, it is always the same. So now you're seeing it, right? You're seeing, here's that little pebble that's driven up by the force. See? There you go. Yeah. There's that little pebble driven up electrically. And I would even suggest to you that right here, there must have been a really massive discharge right here, because this is a classic Z pinch. In fact, the Rosetta mission and Comet 67P looks exactly like this. Like you get the same formation where it's one stone and then another. In this case, it simply stuck to the ground rather than blew off. But right here is a fantastic example of that. And this is a result of an extraordinary electrical discharge. These things don't happen just like for millions of years. They happen in the process, some instantaneous, some hours, perhaps days, but not millions of years. And that's the very definition of catastrophism. You know, that all of these changes that you witness, all of these changes that we see in nature, these aren't the product of something that took 100 million years. I know it boggles the mind, but when you realize that this and processes that create this, that these processes are the same. Check it out. Right down to the collimated structures. And then within the structures, these lines right there. See? See if I can find better photos for you guys. Ooh, these are pretty cool. I liked these because I thought that they really demonstrated well some of the phenomenal beauty. Like, check out these delicate arcs right here. There's nothing there but water. The water just lengthened itself out right here like little tentacles and then froze as it arced up from the earth here at this point and then stretched across, joining with the rest of the stuff which is clearly following a very obvious pattern. Look at this. It's like liquid fire. And there's a pine cone for scale, guys. There's a pine cone. Look at how it just tore the earth right up here. And you can see the layering right here as it's pushing up. And you can literally just see it thrusting upward all through this point. Not unlike what you see here. See? We're just looking at these. We're looking at this all from the perspective of being the tiny person, the little tiny person at the train set. We're this little guy here. You know, we like to think we're up here, but when we're here, this in the scale of planet Earth is still this. And so when we're looking at things like this, and we're seeing these magnificent formations of water, they're virtually happening instantaneously. It's just like building itself, and I'm so grateful I caught this. Look at that. These are extraordinary images. Here's another one. Look at these delicate filaments of water that have crystallized into a linear latticework, literally grabbing whole sections of Earth, encasing it, and then driving the rest upward. I would suggest to you that all geologic formations and all geologic functions, including earthquakes, are driven electrically, are driven in this manner, where the forces are pushed, these upwellings. Wow, look at this. Oh, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. I am genuinely just floored at the beauty here. The beauty. The fact that the water is so the key for so many things. It's a key for understanding time. It's a key for understanding passage. It's part of everything. And it clues us in. I just can't stop looking. It's so neat. All right, let's look at the next one. Here's another great example of a double layer. And in this case now, the ground itself, there's less water, more earth being formed. You can see this, right? That the ground is of a greater composition of silicate. And so the silicates are being transported with the water that is inside of it, that then erupts coming out here from the sides. But you can see that it's being structured and it's being moved. It's being moved along as a result of the water within it. Here's another amazing example of that. Check this out. And look at this. Okay, seriously. Wow. Think in terms of scale. Be a tiny little person the size of the head of this mouse. And you're climbing up the side of this and you're like, how did that happen? And the answer, it literally happened overnight. Literally, the entire canyon, everything was created in a single night. All of this. Because the moment the sun came up, all of this melted and went away. All the structure, for the more part, went away. When I went back out later, there was just a hint, a memory, a slight reminiscence that there was this event that happened, you know, especially when you could see in areas like this. But all of this crystalline beauty gone, absorbed. But it's like that really awesome canyon in Avatar. Look at this. This isn't the process of hundreds of millions of years of erosion. This is the process of literally seeing dielectric sorting and layering. So you can see that the atmosphere itself structured itself in layers. Look at that. And of course, look behind it, right? Even more structure. And there, what's that remind you of? Does this look familiar? It should. There it is. There it is. There they are. These people, when they were designing these structures, were either trying to imitate the forces which created them naturally, which we see out in nature as we go out here. They were either trying to imitate these structures, or they were trying to take advantage of the natural force behind these structures, like an engine perhaps, so that an environment that was more favorably disposed to lithography, a lithographic, a stone structured technology, where literally a Stone Age was not stupidity. A Stone Age was, yeah, this is all that can work because of the nature of the electromagnetic structure in the environment that's causing things to change, that's constantly present. And so we have this. Here we are again. Look at that, just lifting those stones right up. Boom, boom, boom. Look at it arcing, going in blades and lines. Not unlike what we see here or there or here. Are you guys getting an appreciation of scale, of potency, of power? And I just want you to just take a moment, just soak it all in, because truly, like, to realize that all of this geology, I know that I'm speaking in very small terms, but realize it absolutely disrupted the entire surface topography of this area on a very small scale. But if you were to scale up these forces, just more power, more electromagnetic input, what kind of changes could happen? And just how much force is applied? Look how beautiful that is. Trying to give you guys a moment to truly appreciate some of this. Can you believe I took all these pictures on my camera phone? Amazing. Here's another beautiful image. Look at that. And everything held up by these small, tiny little, of course, these are all hexagonal, colonnaded structures. An upper layer and a bottom layer down below. Double layer. Everything is in a double layer. And so, literally, this is where that scripture comes in play, right? Where an expanse was created in heaven within the firmament, a firmament created separating water from water. This is that. And this is that everywhere. Because then what we're seeing play out here what we're seeing play here, also takes place in our atmosphere. So that, for instance, then consider this being the upper atmosphere and this being the lower atmosphere here on the Earth. And then these columns could be considered thermals. There's another great example. Look how it just transported all of that material. Now, if we take this in terms of scale, that means that there's a lot of material that's been moved in a very short period of time, a lot of material that gets displaced. Imagine the effect on the geologic record as we're trying to discuss the impact of one catastrophe after another. And we see the Earth all disrupted like this. Look at this amazing. You can see it. You can see right here. They're down here deep. This is the bottom layer. And it literally just built itself up. It structured itself into a double layer. Here's an area that was less moisture, more earth. Just dirt that kind of had a kind of saturation to it. And so you can see far fewer crystals, but the earth itself is still driven. And this isn't mechanical action. This is electrical action. And so it was driven to an extent that if you step on this, it goes crunch. And it goes crunch because there's an upper layer, and then you can see below, there's a layer below in the hole. It's like talking about sunspots, right? There's like, here's the upper layer, and then there's a sunspot. Everything structures the same. Sunspots happen for the same exact reason that you see holes here, that it's not just a clean sheet, because the electromagnetic structure of the environment is differentiated there. It's polarized. And who knows, perhaps these two openings here might be an alpha and a beta sunspot. But of course, this is taken on a very small scale right here, right? Another example, a little bit from the side, and you can see I was trying to demonstrate that the Earth itself lifted up, and there's a cavity, and then there's more Earth underneath, so that we have a double layer that's literally formed with an upper crust, a cavity, an expanse, and then a lower crust. And of course, all of this is being pushed up, thrust upward, all these stones thrust upward through the electromagnetic force. Here we are. Again, these are really, I found another extraordinary area, and you can see the literal flow of electromagnetism. And it's rising straight up. The thing that caught me that just I thought was so amazing was look at that sorting. Look at how it's transporting small pieces of mineral up with it. Look how it at the top the mineral gathers right here at the top. Notice how it's almost like waves of water. It's just amazing, right? This huge tumult as it's almost creating an arc where these two are reaching towards each other. You pull out and you can see that. It's coming up like this, and it's going that way. And you're seeing literally an archway forming between them. Probably shorted out as a result of this material shorting it out, I would imagine. But behind it, even more. Look at that. And this is in the grass right here, in the lawn. So it disrupted the lawn, pushed up the grass, and you can see there's a lower layer way down here. So an upper layer. So that should be reminiscent then of this. See? there. This area here should remind you of stuff like this. Or perhaps maybe like that. Or more like this, maybe. Right? Here's another spot in the grass that just erupted. These are neat. Look at that. It's so cool. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I honestly, I wanted to get my reaction shots to this because I haven't had time to sit down with these and I wanted to share them with you as I was experiencing it. These are just so cool. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. Look at that. This little arc right here, an arch, an opening here. And you can see again the double layer, that this is thrusting the ground upward here. Here's another shot of that. And little pine cones for scale. Look at this. Literally just erupting straight up out of the ground, just like Devil's Tower. Straight up, just like Devil's Tower in the southwest. Boom. Straight up. Just like that. Erupting. Boom. See that? The slope, the linear line this way, capping off. This is a double layer along the top, right here, in my lawn. Then down here's the lower part of the layer. And then this is the atmospheric conductivity of the moisture and the minerals present within the earth. Look at that disruption. Look at the fine lines that the ice grew upon in these arcs. Here's another fantastic image. It's undeniable here. You clearly can see the double layer. It's along this line here, and then it goes straight down, and then there's another layer. You can see it right down there. It's all crystallized on the ground. And then from that, it literally built up. It tore the ground up and raised all this stuff up. Look at that. Just all this material is completely displaced. And it's all been transported virtually instantaneously, like overnight. And not even overnight, really. This, like I said, this process, it's been my observation that this process is one that takes place within the early hours of the morning. So now you can see it in terms of sheets. And look at this arcing here. You can see we're almost done. Notice how this material has been transported again. Everything structures electrically. Everything. And these fantastic, ridiculously sheer cliffs we see in nature all the time. Not requiring hundreds of millions of years. Not requiring millions of years. Not even tens of thousands of years. perhaps days, maybe weeks or months. But these processes which are electrically driven, they're everywhere. From the very small to the very large. Oh man, look at that. That is like a whoosh, a tidal wave of water carried electromagnetically. Right there. Look at this. Holy cow, look at that. This whole area just lifted up impossibly. There's the tidal wave. And of course, we see exactly these kind of things take place on the surface of the sun. It's just far more fluid, right? But we see these arcs of electromagnetism. We see filaments, magnetic filaments. Well, now you're seeing it, but you're seeing it on the very small. Isn't that just spectacularly beautiful? Oh man, that's so pretty. That's amazing. That is just so amazing. It is so amazing. Oh, look at that. There it is again. Yep. Okay. And here's some more. You can see it just lifting things up, disrupting the ground beneath. Look at that. Look at it lift this stone up. Is this not cool? Oh, this is so cool. Check that out. Like, this is the stuff of sci-fi awesomeness. Look at that image. How could you not be inspired? Look at that image. This is not CGI. This is Mother Nature's workshop every day. Look at that amazing beauty. See, when I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm the little guy right here. Oh, that's amazing. I wish you guys could see how broadly I'm smiling right now. I am just so amazed. Look at that. Look at that. Look at it twist and turn. This is soil and water combined, and the soil is literally following the hexagonal pattern of the water. Reminds me of Giant's Causeway, which you see all sorts of hexagonal patterns on the ground. You can look up Giant's Causeway, but just break that in half, and then you've got it, because that's what you've got here. This amazing, amazing structure. That's a little piece of leaf. Look at this. How amazing. How beautiful is the universe that is electric. Look at these graceful lines. These beautiful structures. How delicate and yet how powerful. How strong. Look at that. Astonishing, right? I really enjoyed sharing this stuff with you guys. I'm really, really, really happy I took the time to do this. This stuff is worth sharing. Look at how beautiful it is. Caverns of rock and ice. Right there. Right there. Created in a double layer. Look at that. So now, when you look at geological structures, those of you that go out there and study geology, as I do, you might view it somewhat differently now. You might be able to see it in terms of double layers being expressed and electromagnetic sorting. So when you see a column of stone exhibiting a linear structure here, pushing some kind of round boulder to the top, what you're seeing, perhaps this, or this, is actually this. It's just an electromagnetic, just an electromagnetic occurrence. Yes, just an electromagnetic occurrence, exhibiting a double layer. Man. Remarkable scale. Oh, look at that. Right in there. You can see it. Look at that beautiful double layer. Right there. Right here on top. Right here on the bottom. All through this entire area. So next time you guys go out into the snow and it goes crunch, 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 stop for a moment and take a look at what you're stepping on, because I guarantee you what you're stepping on is evidence of the electromagnetic structure of the universe, evidence of a double layer. This is that crunchy ground right here. I went crunching on it, and I was like, oh, look, I bet you it's got stuff. Let's take pictures. And again, you can see all the electromagnetic sorting as it's pushing, driving the material around to a double layer. Ooh, look at that. Oh, that's so cool. Do you see how it's bending here? Amazing. This is more of that crunchy ground, as I like to call it. Crunchy ground. What you're crunching are these pillars of ice, compressing the upper layer against the bottom layer, which you can see right there. Here's another outstanding, I don't know how much clearer I can get. I actually found an area where I was able to scrunch down on the ground with my phone all the way flush to the ground and peek in, and I found this perfect example of a double layer, which looks like worthy of any cavern that a spelunker would like to go spelunking in, because look at that. That just is so inviting. You just want to get in there. You're a little guy here and you're jumping in. Grab your gear and go. Look at those formations. And of course this bottom layer, and this is the upper layer, and this literally is a sidelong view. So this is right from the side. So you're seeing it at the side, which then parallels all this stuff here, right? You can see that now. So when we're looking here, you can see that this, it's all like this. Parallels, similar. It's following the same pattern. It's really cool. Yeah, there it is. There's another one. This is another good shot. It's neat how you can also see how the ice is poking out from the sidewalls, right? So it's going up like this, and then it's also shooting out from the sides. And every structure, every presentation of the ice, it's coalescing on electromagnetic lines. That would be my belief as to what you are perceiving. Because that's the electric universe. All right. That's it. That's it. That is the electric universe for today. This is the map. I am Aubrey Forrest, the modern alchemist, and the whole point of this entire episode was to share with you, um, to share with you the electric universe, to see it, in terms of scale, so that we can imagine ourselves here when we're actually up here. And that way, when we're working with the electric universe and we're looking at it and we shrink ourselves down, we can realize that everything that we're seeing here, all of these images, all of this can scale upwards. It's the only thing that differentiates something from this to something from this or that is power, electromagnetism. That's it. That's the only thing that's required to get me from this tiny scale here to this macro scale here. It's just more juice, but it's always the same principle. It's always the same thing. All right, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I took my time walking through the images because, frankly, they're awesome. And I just wanted to take time and share it with you because you're my friends. And this is fun. And look how cool these are. They're so amazing. They're so cool. And why wouldn't you want to share something so beautiful? Right? All right. I'm Aubrey Forrest, the Modern Alchemist, and this has been The Map, the Modern Alchemist podcast. And I've been sharing with you the electric universe in terms of the very large and in terms of the very small. I'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.